Okay, here's a big update video for people that have been interested in um, AIS and just kind of where things have been left off and where things are kind of picking back up and what we've been working on. So we've been working on currently another project while we kind of rethink and improve uh, what we were already had and working on. And kind of what we found is we got all the way to a demo. We never released it because um, there were some things that were not great about performance. We were a heavy blueprint project. The code and structure was not great. Um, there were a lot of things that didn't make sense at the time. We were also still new. And so, kind of where that's left us is, we started working on a survivor-like and went heavy into gameplay ability systems, getting back in the flow of uh, writing really good code and writing back in C++ and extending things into blueprints where we need things to be in blueprints um, and really leveraging, the component pattern and keeping things loosely coupled. Being able to use C++ has gave us a lot of advantages. We've been really using subsystems largely to our advantage, and we really wanted to focus AIS into a single player experience. And that's largely a focus one for code and two because we can bring you a much better experience as a single player. And kind of the vision and storyline of the game has shifted, um, but in a way that is probably going to throw everybody off and will give you many, many, many hours of joy, really. It's going to be extremely fun. So we're currently working on um, the first two chapters, and I've basically I dedicate one day a week from my normal work duties, and I spend that day working on building the game basically back up from scratch. So where we're currently at is uh, working through what I consider the foundation of a game like this is your inventory, your crafting, your stat management, and then kind of where I'm moving into next will be equipment management, excluding firearms. Um, and then from there, I'll move into um, the power system and building. And the power system will be before the building because with where we're taking the game, the power system is um, one, it's global in the game world, and it's extremely important. So being able to power things on, um, craft devices, uh, place devices, save everything. Um, then that will lead me into the building system. And we've changed the way building works in the game in concept until I program it. It won't be true. Um, but where we have designed the building system now is much different than before. The way interactions are is completely different, um, and how you manage things like that. So it's overall a much more interactive game, um, and it's going to play with intensity. I think it'll be really, really good. So kind of where I've gotten to today is everything is getting prototyped. I don't have a complete UI design yet. Um, so I've spent the better part of today working through um, getting the stat system going and implementing more of the inventory system. And then, of course, in good old Paint, I'm starting to work on UI tooltip stuff and trying to figure out how I want the tooltip to look and structure it. And then eventually we'll do the UI art. So I have my little handy dandy test item called a field bandage, and we can author a lot of really cool things in here. Um, and it's pretty generic. We can say how big of a footprint it takes up, what its class size is, how much does it weigh, how much can we stack it, how do we count it, which was kind of an interesting thing. Do we count it by charge, or by count, or by durability, or liters, or meters if it's a length of something? So we can change how we count that thing, and that is relevant to how you see it displayed in the UI by this count tag, or quantity tag, really. We have a mesh here. Right now it's just a standard engine mesh. Whether we rotate it, icons, descriptions, all of that stuff. So that's all pretty standard. And then, oh, this damn fragment system drove me insane. Our last iteration really was a mess. You had items and they had way too much data that was not relevant. Um, and so what you ended up with was one, an item consuming um, more memory than it needed to because it didn't need to know anything else. Like, say it was just a mesh. Well, it still had data because the structs were so shit. It had data for things that weren't relevant. Um, I've broken this down into fragments. I'm still adding more fragments as things go on, but we have uh, basic fragments, and so not every item needs to be inspectable. So we have an inspectable fragment. We have a time stat effects fragment, which is essentially we say which stat, which operation, what we want to do, how long it lasts. Do we give it a label? Can we stack it? Can we not? Um, and if you want to replace that magnitude. So we can do things there, and then we have a consumable use fragment. So the time stat fragment, you need to have, can you use this item? And that's pretty important. Um, and then we can specify where we're allowed to use this item from. Um, do we want to apply any restorations immediately when we use it? Quantity to be consumed on use. Is this need to apply a time stat effect? Does it require any effects to apply? Yes. So sometimes we can use this without certain effects happening, and it has its own methods because this use, consumable use, could be immediate use items. Um, so we break that down and make it very clear, like everything's commented. And then I have a other host of interaction descriptors, soup modules. Yep, that's something coming. Our use actions. Is it a fuel? Is it evidence? Is it equipment? Um, let's say an economy. What's our sell price? What currency does it represent? And then is there specific vendors that we want this to be used at? Um, Other cool ones are like a capacity, and for this we can add grid width and our container type to add to. Do we want to add just weight capacity? Um, and so we can increase our inventory off of this, or maybe we want a container, and this can actually just straight up add a new container. Um, So if I added a container and I created a new container for this, and say it was the bandage container, and then I added in a um, a way to open this up, then you would essentially be able to open that container, and we have containers and containers. That's kind of the next thing for inventory stuff that will happen. Um, Interaction descriptors. What is that description? What's the interaction tag for it? So it goes on and on. Like these are our basic fragments we have right now. Evidence stuff is our summary and tag for evidence, and that can tie into things you find in the world, journal logs, blah, blah, blah. And we'll expand on some of those as we go on. So for right now, the time stat effect, let's say it lasts 15 seconds. Uh, and it doesn't stack right now. I don't have it set to stack. So we have our basic HUD stats, and this is the field bandage. And if I right click it here, we can see our field bandage, and I'll click use. And then you can see 15 seconds, it says poison, and it's ticking down in our buffs. And so our health has dropped to 75%, and it will start to lower, and then it will remove that buff from the container, and then our health goes back to full. Now the health doesn't have to go back to full, that's just how we want to use it. We could have it, that could be a permanent effect, but right now it's treating it as something that's like a temporary debuff. And that's all it's doing for the moment. We also have other modifiers that are more permanent, and those are uh, straight stat modifiers. And so if I add in a stat modifier, go away, apply in any container because I don't want to think about container tags right now. The stat tag, let's say vital current stamina, add flat, and we'll do minus 50. So we should be at 50%. Heavy item. And so we can just reduce that. In theory, as long as we're holding, yeah, here goes it, initialize. Interesting. I've not tested this one. I'll have to look into that. That's actually funny. I don't know why it's doing that. So in theory, that that is not supposed to work that way. Probably it's thinking it's using. Let's do. Yeah, let's do actually need. I don't know. Current thirst. Minus 10. So I don't know if it's ratioing, but now our thirst is at 50. If I use this, I think it is stacking because we have so many. Yeah, so it's reading the stack, so now we're minus 10. So that was the issue. It's reading per stack. And as long as we have that item in our inventory, it will keep reducing us. So if I use it again, now our thirst is back to 100. It'll tick down because it's on a timer. But what's important about that is instances of items you can pick up in the world, and they may actually be permanent buffs. And the real way that I have planned for using this, I have in any container, so it could be just something you carry, like a charm or something like that. Or what it really will end up being is things in specific containers, like a backpack or in a belt pouch of some sort, that if you have this item in there, or equipped or attached to it, um, then it can give you some sort of permanent buff. You just need to have it on you in this container, and it provides like increased weight. So a lot of different things we can do with this, and it works out really well. So pretty stoked about getting this generally working. And that's really the biggest updates, is getting a lot of this stuff done. There is the crafting and deconstruction system working. So this is a broken radio. Um, and what we can do with the broken radio is we have a recipe for radio salvage. Um, so I can only do one because I have one down here. And we can go ahead and craft. No fuel required or no power eventually. And then it will break this down into parts. Um, so this is a pressed metal plate, and this is just some salvage, and I can just, doesn't really matter, I can throw it in the inventory, it'll auto stack. So now we have 11. I can come out here, go to my basic workbench. I have 5 of that, it takes 16. And here we have pressed metal plate again. Can make 5, and it should be, I might have done too many. There is a little bit of a bug. I'll have to work through that. Something's going on. Uh, but the core of it, once I figure out some of these little bugs, I'll start cleaning up UI presentation and stuff. And then essentially we craft 3 of these pressed metal plates. And what will end up happening is you'll be able to move these, or they may spawn them in the world and then you pick them up. So things that are too heavy to put in your inventory, they'll actually just spawn in world. So if we go here, crafting station component, crafting station profile, supported, we can craft this thing, and it takes this long, it requires this much, input, output. And so this is what we end up returning. And then if we go to our workbench, it should allow spawn output overflow. And then we can pretty much do our spawn output. And I need to add, basically, I'm going to add a toggle because this is to allow for this type of behavior, but right now it's actually not doing that. So what that will end up being is this is a spawn zone slash, like if you drop items here, it will then feed this crafting station. So that's kind of next on the docket is picking up and moving holdable items, dropping them into these load zones, and then the crafting bench receiving them, and then also spawning our items that are holdable into these zones for the player to move and manage, and then eventually having containers that can receive those items, and you can eject them out as needed. So yeah, those are the big updates, and that's kind of what's going to be coming up over the next 3 or 4 weeks, basically the next month. So I have 4 days of work to try and finish item manipulation and workbenches.